Today, I'm going to tell you about a movie from 2011 that's a mix of biography, comedy, and drama called The Untouchables. There will be spoilers, so be careful if you haven't seen it yet. One night in Paris, Driss is driving his boss, Philippe, around the city. Traffic is slow and boring, so Driss starts speeding, weaving through cars and ignoring traffic rules. Because of this, the police start chasing them. Driss bets 100 euros that he can get away, but after going under a bridge, the police catch up and block them from both sides. Driss doesn't seem too stressed and bets 200 euros this time, saying he can get the police to escort them. The police tell him to get out of the car, and Driss starts pretending. He acts upset and says Philippe is disabled and he's rushing him to the hospital. The police believe him after they find a wheelchair in the car. When they check on Philippe, he fakes a seizure. Thinking it's serious, the police forgive Driss for speeding and offer to escort them to the hospital. When they get to their stop, and the police leave, he lights a cigarette and shares it with Philippe. Driss says he'll take care of everything and drives off before hospital workers can approach them. Their friendship had started months earlier. Philippe and his assistant, Magali, were interviewing people for the job of caretaker, but the interviews weren't going well. All the people they talked to gave boring or awkward answers. Suddenly, Driss walks in, even though it's not his turn. He just wants a paper sign that says he didn't get the job, so he can collect unemployment money. He's direct and a bit rude, even flirting with Magali, but Philippe finds him funny and asks him to come back the next day for the signed paper. Driss returns home to a modest neighborhood. He tries to take a bath, but his younger siblings keep bothering him. His older sister Mina helps him get some peace. While waiting for their mom to come home, Driss looks out the window and sees his brother Adama getting out of a suspicious car. When Adama walks into the apartment, he just says he was at school and quickly leaves again, which makes Driss more suspicious. That evening, their mom arrives. Driss gives her a Faberge egg he stole and tells her he was on vacation when she asks where he's been. She's not happy to see him, though. She's upset because he vanished for 6 months and never called, and now he's back like nothing happened. She says she's tired of his lies and has other kids to care for, so she kicks him out and tells him not to come back. Driss spends the night smoking and snacking with his friends from the neighborhood. The next day, Driss goes to Philippe's house to get his papers. The housekeeper, Yvonne, lets him in, gives him a tour, and tells him about Philippe's daily schedule. She also shows him the room he'd have if he took the job. It even has its own bathroom. Driss stares at the bathtub before Yvonne pulls him away to meet Philippe. Philippe offers him the signed paper but also gives him a job offer. Driss agrees to try it out for 1 month. Philippe bets he won't last 2 weeks. Driss brings his things to his new room and starts learning how to take care of Philippe. He's taught how to move his legs to keep them active, how to put him in a wheelchair, and how to help him bathe and get dressed. Things get uncomfortable when Driss finds out he has to put on Philippe's high socks and clean him after he uses the bathroom. Even though he complains and says he won't do those things, he ends up doing them anyway because it's part of the job. Later that evening, Driss is relaxing on the roof with a snack. He gets interrupted by Philippe's daughter, Elisa, and her boyfriend, Bastien, who are looking for a quiet place to make out. Driss refuses to share his beer and kicks them out. Driss quickly gets used to his new routine with Philippe, even though he makes a few mistakes at first. For example, he hands Philippe the phone instead of putting it to his ear, and he forgets the baby monitor while he's taking a bath. He also learns how to sort Philippe's mail into different folders. He opens most of the letters for him, but there are some private ones he's not allowed to read. When he finds a flyer about female escorts, instead of throwing it away like Philippe says, he makes a new folder just for those. He keeps flirting with Magali, but she never falls for it. One morning, Yvonne comes into his room to scold him for being late, and she finds some dangerous weapons in his bag. She sees them but doesn't say anything yet. Driss's job for the day is to drive Philippe around, but he refuses to put him in the back of a van like he's a package. Instead, he chooses one of the fancy cars that usually stay parked. At first, Philippe says this isn't practical and they should be more careful, but he soon gets excited about the idea of a faster and more fun ride, even if Yvonne doesn't approve. When they try to leave, there's a neighbor blocking their way, even though there's a sign saying not to park there. Driss acts quickly. He walks up to the man, grabs his shirt, and threatens him until he moves the car. Philippe is impressed, but Yvonne once again disapproves. They go to a museum where Philippe wants to buy a piece of art. Driss doesn't understand why because it looks like just a red blob on a canvas. After that, Philippe meets with a family member who says everyone is worried about Driss, especially because he can be violent. They also found out about his criminal record, but Philippe doesn't care. He likes Driss because he treats him like a normal person and jokes with him. Later, Driss tries to flirt with Magali again but fails. Then he eats dinner with Yvonne in the kitchen while they listen to Philippe dictating a letter to Magali. Yvonne turns off the baby monitor, saying it's a private message, and she explains what's happening. Philippe has been writing letters to a woman named Eleanor. Those are the private letters Driss wasn't allowed to open. Philippe and Eleanor have never met in real life. Their relationship is only through writing. Driss starts teasing Yvonne, saying the gardener always gives her flirty looks. Later, when he's trying to sleep, he hears strange noises through the baby monitor. Philippe is struggling to breathe. Driss can't ignore it, so he goes to help. He calmly talks to Philippe and wipes his face with a wet cloth, helping him relax. Philippe finally falls asleep, but a little later, he wakes up again and says he needs fresh air. Driss doesn't think twice. He puts Philippe in his wheelchair, wraps him in blankets, and takes him out for a walk by the river. It's the first time Philippe has seen the city at night in a long time. Feeling calmer, he tells Driss that the medicine only helps so much. Sometimes he still feels pain from limbs he no longer has. When they see some girls walking by, Philippe opens up more and says he can't have sex anymore because of his condition, but he can still feel some pleasure when someone massages his ears, which are very sensitive. When the phantom pain seems like it might return, Driss shares a joint with him. Philippe is unsure at first, but ends up really enjoying it. After that, they go to a restaurant. They joke and laugh while eating, and Philippe begins to share more about his past. He met his wife when they were students. Not long after they got married, she had 5 miscarriages and then was diagnosed with a sickness that couldn't be cured. That's when they adopted Elisa. Philippe loved competing, extreme sports, and going fast. Paragliding gave him that. But one day, bad weather made him crash and break his spine. Still, he says his biggest loss isn't being in a wheelchair, it's having to live without his wife. They keep joking around, and then Philippe suddenly remembers the date. He realizes that Driss has completed his 1-month trial, so he's now officially hired. But he has to start by returning the Faberge egg he stole, because it was a special gift from his wife. The next day, Driss waits for Mina outside her school. She's a bit upset because he hasn't been replying to her messages, except the one asking her to find the egg. She also tells him that some police officers have been calling their house. After that, Driss goes to see Adama, who admits he got caught with 30 grams of drugs. Driss wants to take him out for lunch, but Adama says no and gets into the same suspicious car from before. Later, Driss is allowed to sit in while Philippe dictates another letter to Eleanor for Magali to write down. Driss thinks the fancy language Philippe uses is boring and tells him he should be more straightforward. He's shocked to find out this letter writing has been going on for 6 months and they haven't even exchanged photos. When he finds Eleanor's phone number on one of the letters, he takes that as a sign and calls her. He forces Philippe to take the phone and finally talk to her instead of just writing. Their conversation goes really well, and soon Philippe is calling her all the time, even right before he and Driss go to the opera. During the show, Driss laughs and makes jokes about the costumes. The next day, Driss convinces Philippe to send a photo of himself to Eleanor and picks one where Philippe is in his wheelchair. Later, while Driss is painting, Elisa barges into his room to ask for cigarettes and mocks him for trying to be an artist. He gets mad, kicks her out, and goes to see Philippe, who's busy asking Yvonne to change the photo to one from before he became paralyzed. Yvonne hides the old photo inside the folder with the escort ads just before Driss comes in, angry about Elisa. He tells Philippe to discipline her, and Yvonne agrees. Philippe says he'll talk to her, but is surprised to hear Driss mention that he's been painting. Time passes, and the bond between Philippe and Driss gets stronger. Philippe gets Driss his first suit and scolds Elisa while Driss listens through the baby monitor. When Driss finishes his first painting, he shows it to Magali, but when he tries to kiss her, she slaps him. Philippe, on the other hand, likes the painting and promises to try to sell it. When Philippe's birthday comes, he doesn't look forward to it. Every year, he acts surprised at the party, but he knows it's just an excuse for his relatives to check that he's still alive. Driss looks for Elisa, who's crying in her room. She took some of Yvonne's pills, but they're not strong enough to hurt her. She's upset because Bastien dumped her and called her a tart. She asks Driss to go talk to him, and he agrees, but only if she pays him. Meanwhile, Philippe shows Driss painting to one of his relatives and convinces him to buy it for 11,000 euros. Driss goes back to the party and chats with Yvonne, who tells him that Magali is dating a guy named Fred, but their relationship isn't going well, which gives Driss some hope. As the party winds down, Philippe plays some famous classical songs for Driss, but Driss just jokes around. When the band is finished, Driss grabs his iPod and plays Boogie Wonderland by Earth, Wind, and Fire. He starts dancing in the middle of the room and gets everyone else to join in. Philippe watches and enjoys every moment. Later that night, when Driss is putting Philippe to bed, he opens Eleanor's latest letter. She sent a photo of herself, she's very pretty, and says she wants to meet next week when she comes to Paris. When the day of the date arrives, Yvonne and Driss help Philippe try on lots of outfits until they find the right one. Since Yvonne is the one taking Philippe to the date, Driss uses his day off to visit Bastien. He threatens him until the boy agrees to apologize to Elisa, bring her croissants every day, and fix his hair. After that, Driss visits his mom at her job, but he doesn't talk to her, he just watches her from a distance. At the restaurant, Yvonne and Philippe are waiting for Eleanor, but she's very late. After waiting an hour, Philippe gives up, calls Driss to come pick him up, and leaves the restaurant, just as Eleanor finally arrives. That night, Philippe takes Driss with him on his private plane and surprises him with the money from the painting sale. Driss is thrilled. They arrive in the countryside the next morning, and Philippe decides to go paragliding and insists that Driss join him. Driss is terrified at first, but once they're in the air, he ends up loving it. When they get back home, Adama is there waiting. Driss is upset to see the scars on Adama's face and scolds him, but Adama still won't explain what's going on. Driss makes him wait in his room, then calls Mina to let her know not to worry, and goes to help Philippe get ready for bed. But Philippe isn't tired yet. He wants to look at a painting and talk. He asks Driss about his family, and though Driss doesn't want to talk at first, he eventually opens up. He explains that Adama isn't really his brother and his parents are actually his aunt and uncle. They brought him from Senegal when he was 8 because they couldn't have kids. His real name is Bakary Baysari, but since other kids had that name, they called him Idris, which turned into Driss. Later, his aunt was able to have kids after all, and after his uncle passed, more men and more children came into their lives. Hearing this, Philippe tells Driss that just like he needed to discipline Elisa, Adama now needs Driss. So he fires Driss, not because he's unhappy with him, but because he wants Driss to go be with his family and live his own life instead of always taking care of an old man. The next morning, Driss packs his things. Bastien shows up with a croissant and a better haircut, keeping his deal with Driss. Magali comes to say goodbye. Driss flirts one last time, but Magali introduces him to her partner, Fred, short for Frederic. She's not into men, and Driss gives up on his romantic chase. As he leaves, Driss returns the baby monitor to Yvonne and teases her for tricking him about Magali. She gives him the folder he used to collect escort ads, and he finds that the photo he chose of Philippe is hidden inside. He throws away the folder but keeps the picture. A few hours later, Driss and Adama go to pick up their mother from the train station. Back at the house, Philippe is having dinner with a new caretaker, but the man is dull and serious. Philippe can't stand it and leaves the table without eating. As time passes, Driss returns to his old life. He hangs out with his friends again and warns the guys in the suspicious car to leave Adama alone. He goes to a job interview he's not really qualified for, but impresses the boss by calling himself pragmatic and using the art knowledge he learned with Philippe. He lands a job as a driver. Meanwhile, Philippe keeps disliking his new caretaker and is always in a bad mood. One night, his phantom pain gets really bad, but he won't let anyone help him. Yvonne ends up calling Driss. This brings us back to the beginning. Driss speeding through the city with Philippe in the car, chased by the police, who eventually escort them to the hospital. Afterward, Driss drives Philippe to the coast. Seeing the ocean helps Philippe feel better. Later, Driss trims Philippe's long beard and takes him to a restaurant, but doesn't stay. Someone else is joining Philippe for lunch. Driss wishes him luck and finally gives back the Faberge egg. Philippe starts to worry about being alone, but then sees who his date is, Eleanor. She's happy to see him and doesn't care about the wheelchair at all. The real Count Philippe Pozo di Borgo now lives in Morocco, is remarried, and has 2 daughters. The real Driss, whose name is actually Abdul Yasmin Selu, runs his own business and is married with 3 children. The 2 men are still close friends to this day.